Hello everyone, welcome to Howler Bike Park here in Missouri for our 2024 EMTB Shootout Series presented by Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Ari Wire Peak Pro. Now in this year's shootout we had a $6,100 to $10,000 price cap, and then we also had a subgroup of sub $6,000 EMTBs, and the Ari fits in there at $56.99. It is a 145 mil rear travel, 160 mil front travel, 29-inch wheel, kind of all mountain, do it all EMTB.
So a Ari aluminium frame equipped with a fairly nice, kind of sensible build spec, I'd say, reasonable quality component parts for the money. Fox performance suspension package, a TRP Trail Evo brake set on there, Shimano XT Link Glide drivetrain, and then a DT Swiss 1900 wheel set, which is a really nice high quality option to see at this price point for sure. Ari does also offer the possibility for customers to go onto their website when they're ordering and use their 23-step fit program to tailor the component spec, and also to swap out things like dropper post length, bar rise, to get the bike set up and equipped with the components that you're looking for instead of having to buy the bike and upgrade it after. So really nice to see, and definitely a solid build spec there overall.
For sure. Moving into drive unit, got a Shimano EP6. It's the only bike with EP6 in the test. 85 Newton meters of torque. Still the peak power output is down just a little bit from the new EP801. So it's 500 watts of peak power instead of 600.
Slightly heavier as well.
Yes.
300 grams in it between the two. Nothing too crazy to write home about, but definitely, yeah. The slightly cheaper Shimano drive unit.
Sure. And Darfon battery?
Darfon battery, 635 watt hours. Giving us a fairly decent range.
Okay. We opted for the size large. Our four testers are between 5'10", 5'11"-ish, up to about 6'2". Kind of struck a nice blend for most of our crew. If you want to look at the geo from this bike as well as all the other bikes in the shootout, head to the loamwolf.com, where we've got a nice chart where you can check out all the numbers, get into detail. But overall, I'd say a pretty reasonable spot for a size large bike in that kind of 160, 140 range. And now I think what we'll do is head out to the trails and see how this bike performed, what the geo and all the components add up to when it matters most in the hills.
In the right terrain, this bike is a lot of fun. Nice and agile, considering that it's not the lightest on test, but I think the geometry and general suspension platform do pretty well for it, and yeah, having a blast.
Ooh, what stands out? The EP6, I suppose, for better or worse. It doesn't have as much power climbing up the hill as some of our other contenders here. TRP brakes, those are always good. Fox Performance Elite can work fairly well. I did bottom it on the big drop-off Wizard, but it soaks up a lot of the cables here on a Pippy Cowboy.
So the Wire Peak 140, 150, 29er, EP6 drive unit, so a little less power, which I don't think we noticed a ton on the flatter trails, but when it started getting steep, definitely something that we could notice being an issue. But again, I guess the big thing for riders to consider, no matter what they're looking at in a bike or an e-bike, is what they expect and what is important to them. So what stands out to you guys when you're thinking about your time on the Wire Peak?
I think it's a solid all-rounder trail bike, really. It's fairly nice and comfortable. The geometry is well balanced. It still retains enough of a playful nature, I think, that you can still have fun on flow trails and try and get it sideways. Definitely on the more planted side of things for a bike in this travel category. I think part of that is to do with the weight of it. It is definitely on the heavier side, but it is definitely a solid bike. And there was only a couple of times that I really, riding it with the trail bike mindset, that I really wished for something different. one of those was trying to keep up with you guys on the climbs when you were on 600 watt plus peak power motors, me being 220 pounds on the 500 watt peak power motor. I was struggling a lot.
Yeah. Pushing into berms, jumps, I know that's kind of like pushing to the boundaries of maybe where this bike is designed to optimally be ridden and the type of rider, but how'd you feel when you wanted to go hit some big jumps on it?
It didn't make me nervous per se. It feels nice and, well, stiff and stout enough to the point that I wasn't scared to push it a little bit to the limits of a 140, 150 mil bike.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for a bike that can still be pushed in more gnarly terrain, but just not quite so hard as, you know, an enduro bike in the category, it is solid. It's quite fun. It's fairly poppy, just a little bit on the heavy side.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty well for the climbing aspects of the bike. And then, yeah, descending it, I had a lot more fun on the flow trails with the jumps and berms. Like, I felt like I was cornering the best on this bike.
Out of everything?
Out of everything, which was weird.
Why, do you know, or do you have
It could
a
just
suspicion?
be how short it is. Like, it feels like it's pretty short, or...
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 480 reach, so it's
Reach
not
is definitely
overly
super
short.
compact, but rear end is pretty short. Head angle's not super slack.
It's a 65-degree head angle, so definitely steeper than some of the other bikes you really like.
Yeah,
but that
maybe
could make
just
for
a little bit more composed and, like, could get me in the line that I want quicker.
Okay. Okay.
And, like, I don't feel the weight as much as some of the other bikes that are harder to manage in the corners. But then moving to, like, the gnarlier tech side of things, I was certainly a lot more timid.
Okay.
And it got overwhelmed quickly.
I think this is kind of designed for maybe more of an entry-level, rider, someone who wants to get into e-biking and not get the big burly Timp Peak, which is Ari's long travel enduro bike. You know, they just want to get out, explore fire roads, single tracks, do a little bit of, mountain biking with an assist. And I think for that rider, this is definitely a bike worth considering and a solid option. And as you can see in the video, it is still more than capable of hitting some black diamond downhill trails and some big jumps. But yeah, I think it wasn't built with that type of riding in mind exclusively or daily. And I think, Ari would agree. If you called him up or sent him a DM, they would say maybe the Timp Peak is more what you need rather than the Wire Peak. So
for sure. Important, I think, obviously being a sub $6,000 bike, but especially being an Ari where they always seem to rank pretty damn highly in this category. Let's talk about value, spec for your money. Sean, what do you reckon to this build for $5,609?
Performance Elite suspension is a solid choice. It feels great almost every single time, no matter what. Wheel spec is good. I will say that I was not stoked with the rad seat post. I felt like it kept getting stuck and required a little bit readjusting to be able to use to drop that seat post. And then the saddle is probably one of the most uncomfortable saddles I've ever spent time on.
Absolutely, not a fantastic saddle, but I think there might be some people out there with a particularly round-shaped butt that is comfortable for. I'm not so sure. Otherwise, I think the drivetrain spec is solid. The brake spec, the TRPs worked really good, apart from the front one got a bit contaminated later on in testing.
It's definitely one of the better brake specs for a budget bike.
For sure.
yeah,
It's overall a really solid package, I think.
I'm mixed.
Okay.
And the big thing that's confusing me on the value discussion is they give you better suspension than most of the other bikes. They give you better brakes than most of the bikes. You get XT, right, drivetrain, but then you get an EP6 drive unit. And I've had a hard time valuing what's more important, what riders would rather have. Like, would you rather have SLX and a one step down in that fork, but an EP8 drive unit? You would save weight, you would get more power.
If it's 801, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's going to depend on
Because the other bikes
who's
in
buying
this
the bike, right?
the other bikes in this price point do have those.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I guess the motor spec choice. The 500 watt peak power will still let you do a lot. It's just when things get particularly steep and you're trying to push it really hard that you're going to notice that difference, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think there is probably 80% of riders will buy this and they will think this is more than enough power and they'll never need more. And they're not going to be, in a group ride with, Bosch or EP801 riders going vertical up a hill, in a race application. But at the same time, if we're, looking at the value of the other bikes that are $56 to $59.99 and they have EP801, and then this one does not, even though it's got better drivetrain, brakes, and suspension, I just have a hard time deciding on what would be more important to me. And I kind of feel like if I had a little bit lighter drive unit, right? I mean, it's 100 grams, 300 grams lighter with a little more power I like climbing. I like technical climbing. So I don't know, maybe I would be happier with some SLX stuff and, maybe a downgrade in the fork to the next step below and a different drive unit. I don't know. I've really thought hard and I don't have a final decision on that yet.
I think it just comes down to what Ari built the bike for and who their general consumer is that they think is for the Wire Peak.
For sure. Yeah, and I guess also worth mentioning, right? I'm sure you can get Wire Peaks for less than this.
Yeah. This is the top spec.
This is the top spec Wire Peak. So it is giving us the best suspension platform possible and still getting under $56.99. So from that side of things, we are for sure getting the best drivetrain, brakes, and suspension of any bike in the sub 6K category. So I think maybe where I would say with the Wire Peak is if you're gonna spend this much, I would say almost just go down and don't get this level of suspension because those riders probably won't notice a huge difference in performance and save the money, or just step up and go to the Tim Peak. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I don't know either. I guess it's on you to evaluate where your preferences lie and to make that call yourself. For me, I don't know. For trail riding,
yeah.
If I'm gonna go out and cover big miles, if I'm gonna go, around the local trail center, the EP6 is gonna do me absolutely fine. It's just I feel like potentially we have a slightly more extreme outlook at what e-mountain biking should be that favors a more powerful drive unit, where we're looking to not necessarily go up the long windy way up the hill, but point more of a direct route up there and really call upon that extra 100 watts of power that the 801 would have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're not looking to do that, which lots of people are, and that is totally fine, I think the Wire Peak is a great option for them. Like, this is a solid bike, and I think a lot of folks would really enjoy and get a lot out of it. So
the Ari Wire Peak, certainly a solid all-around trail bike, just potentially not the spec level that we would buy, but that's up to you to decide. If you've enjoyed watching this video, give us a like, leave us a comment, let us know if you have any questions or thoughts on the Wire Peak. What drive unit would you like to see on it? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the rest of the videos in our 2024 EMTB Shootout. Thanks for watching, catch you out on the trails.